4, 2. Okay, so here we are for another session out of the Summerhill Festival of Childhood. We have Florie, who, well, I say, actually, if I'm right, that both of you are part of the film, but you're the main filmmaker, who's or the person who's put the film together that we're now talking about. So the film is called Pursuing My Dreams. Now, we also have Hill Weisenborn, who is one of the stars of the film, should we say. So it's a nice opportunity to be able to ask questions of both. But first of all, Florie, do you want to just introduce yourself and just tell us about you and you know, how you've come to where you are today, sort of thing, if you will.
Sure. So I started the project Pursuing My Dreams, the film. I started it, I think 5 or 6 years ago now. It's been a really long journey. And everything started because, well, first it started because I hated school when I was a child. And I really, really wanted to do something about this. My dream was to transform education and contribute to the movement of democratic schooling. So I had been knowing the concept of democratic schooling for a few years, but I noticed that people around me didn't know that it existed. And people in France really thought that the only school, so I'm French, that's why I guess you know it. I'm living in Spain at the moment, so I've lost completely my English. And so yeah,
okay. You've maintained your French accent though. Your French accent's still very strong, so that gave it away, I think. Anyway,
stronger now than ever.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I really wanted to do something to make them known, the schools, the democratic schools, because we had, when I started the film, there was about 50 schools in France, but no one knew about them. So I thought that I knew how to tell stories, I knew how to make films, because at the time I was working in advertising and making videos, advertisement, and I decided to make a documentary film. So that's how I met Hildebrand, who's here.
Yeah, amazing. Cool. Well, Hill, do you want to just introduce yourself as well? We'll come back to you, Florie, in just a second. Hill, whilst we have you here, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. All right. So I'm Hill Weisenborn, Dutch, but also ex-Summerhillian. And nowadays I work for a computer games company. So, like, I think Summerhillian time Hill would have been proud, at least of that. So, and yeah, one of the subjects of Florie's documentary.
Yeah, amazing. Good. So, Florie, you were saying that I mean, it's been a 6-year project for you. So obviously I have seen, I don't think I've seen the very final edit of the film, which I'm quite excited about, the fact that there might be a bit more that I haven't seen yet, which is always quite nice if you haven't seen the final edit. But I have seen bits of it, but do you want to tell us a bit more? Obviously, you know, the fact that it's been a 6-year film, but you know, there's specifically sort of something quite specific about you're following different stories, aren't you, about that? So do you want to just give us a bit more detail about that, of how that...
Exactly, yeah. So at the beginning, I really wanted to I wanted to give a definition of what is a democratic school. And I knew that they were all around the world and that every school was really different from one another. And some of them would say, no, I'm not a democratic school. I don't respond by the definition of democratic school. But in the end, the overall definition was always non-compulsory lessons, and children would make the rules and decide what they would do with their time. So the first thing that I did was select 4 different schools in 4 different countries. Obviously, Summerhill would be one of them. The Sudbury Valley in the USA as well. La Cecilia in Argentina, and Ojo de Agua in Spain. And once I had selected the 4 democratic schools, I started to interview people. So I wanted to find 4 different profiles of 4 alumni who would be able to tell their stories and present us to their families, people with whom I really wanted them to have different profiles. That was the most important thing for me, so that they could answer to the question, what do you become when your entire childhood has been ruled by freedom? What do you become when you go through a democratic school and you never go attend a traditional school? Can you enter university? Can you find a job? How do you do it? That was the main question of the film, because I think it's the main question that the parents have, and I wanted to, for me and for the people in the world, answer the question, what would they become? I know that children are happy to go to a democratic school, but can they become happy adults? Can they integrate society and find a job? That was the main question. Yeah.
And so, just quickly as well, just because this gets kind of before we move on a bit more, that was there sort of criterias specific? I mean, because exactly as you said, democratic schools are very, very different wherever you go around the world. So was there sort of like specific criteria that you're sort of thinking almost for the children involved in the story, or were they people who had been there for all of their education? Was that, had you sort of, or did you deliberately get quite a broad perspective on that? What was the...
It really depended on the 4 profiles. So for instance, Hildebrand went to Summerhill because he hated school, because he felt that traditional school wouldn't be, well, I think Hill, you will say it better than I will.
Yeah, we'll come to you in a second, Hill. Yeah.
So yeah, but for instance, Frances, she did unschooling for 14 years before she decided to go to the Sudbury Valley School. So for her childhood was staying at home and playing with her brother and sister. And it was really different from what Paula, another character of the film, had lived, because her parents built the school for her. When she was born, her parents tried to find an alternative school and they didn't find anything. So they decided to create a school specifically for her. So that's a really different, because she never knew something else. For her, it's been 18 years immersed in the school. So the way she talks about the school is really natural, because she only knows that. For her, it's reality and it's the more normal thing. But then if you talk to Emiliano in Argentina, Emiliano went to traditional school for maybe 10 years, but he got expelled from the schools. And he reached a point in which he couldn't go to any school, because in the region there was no school who would accept him. So he had no other option than going to a democratic school. And it's a really different story. And when he tells about when he talks about the school, he has something in his eye that says, "Oof, the school saves my life, because I was going to be a person expelled from society in the end." And the school gave him an opportunity to find his talents, and also because he was under a treatment before. The way he could stay 10 years in the traditional school was taking a lot of pills, because he was diagnosed with ADHD.
So right. So he was on Ritalin, was he?
Exactly, yes, for many years. But then it wasn't functioning, it wasn't enough, it was never enough. And his parents had to go to the psychologist all the time. And the whole family would be unhappy about the situation. So in the end, the solution was the democratic school, but it's not the same going to a democratic school because your family has the philosophy of unschooling, and going because you have. So for me, it was important to find a different background. And also because the 4 of them have really different passions, and really because the title is Pursuing My Dreams. So it was important for me to find 4 people who would have interesting and cinematographic dreams. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I think especially, I remember it. The dynamics between the 4 stories were really dynamic. It's really nice, really lovely dynamics. Obviously, I know Hill very well. We'll come to you in a second, Hill. I want to speak to you, Hill. Oh yeah. but I really like the dynamics of all of the other stories within and the way that you had put it all together, sort of thing. So just quickly, in the chat, we got someone who's asked, how do we view the film? Oh, of course. So have we got a release date? Is the question. No pressure, no pressure.
So at the moment, the film hasn't been released. Maybe I should share the. So the film hasn't been released because it's in festivals at the moment. By the way, I think there are 4 or 5 festivals at the moment. So one in Los Angeles that accepted the film, it's in the selection. One in Germany, one in Bolivia about human rights, one in Chile as well. And
Nice.
some others that the film is in festivals. And every time it goes to a festival, I have to sign a contract saying that I'm not going to release the film until the festival happens.
I see.
So I have to wait 6 more months, about 6 months before I can release the film officially.
I was going to say, is it? They're not online. I hope they're online festivals. Otherwise, we could be waiting quite a few years. I'm hoping that they're online festivals so that COVID's not going to get in the way. Sorry, I'm just reflecting back on our experience. That in August we were meant to be all gathering together, and anyway, that's another story.
But in 6 months from now, so the thing is, if you want to know when the film will be released, there is a Facebook, a website, where you can let your email, and then I will send an email to say, hey, it's official. You can see the film. There is a link to see it. So if you want, I can share à la poursuite de mes rêves.com. That's the name of the website.
Yeah, I think why don't you put the website up? And then what I'll do is I'll have a little chat with Hill for a little bit, and then you could show the trailer that you're going to show us a bit of the film, a bit of a short of the film.
So if I share the screen, can you see the website if I do that?
Yeah, we can see it now. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the website. If you go there, there is a pop-up and you can leave your email. That's the thing.
Yeah. Good. So you can sign up to the newsletter to be kept up to date of the release. So the big question is, and I'm sure that as we've got Kata here as well, is are we going to be able to show the film at the Summerhill Festival of Childhood in 2022 in person? Are we going to be able to share the whole film then?
For sure.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because we've recorded that now. So this is a contract. We've got witnesses.
You have my word.
Yeah, yes.
No, I really want to be there. No, of course. It has to be there.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so actually, no, well, let's watch a bit of this first, and then Hill, I'll come to you and we'll have a chat just after. So let's watch a bit of this. This is the trailer then, is it, or is it a short? What's the?
No. That's the 4 minutes that's the introduction of the film. That's the beginning of the film.
The beginning of the film. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I hated school. Lessons, compulsory lessons, and sitting in a desk for so many hours a day was something that drove me crazy as a kid. I particularly hated history. Geography I found pointless, and English classes, in fact, had me scared. We had to dictate 15 words, learn how to spell them correctly by the end of the week. And this annoyed me so much that I didn't want to go to school anymore. It really did give me the kind of adrenaline rush that as a kid I don't think anybody should feel.
Cuando yo nací, mis padres decidieron que no quería que fuera el colegio convencional. Y como no había nada que no fuera el colegio convencional, ellos decidieron crear Ojo de Agua. Es un sitio donde creces y te desarrollas rodeado de naturaleza y a tu propio ritmo.
En la escuela no sabían qué hacer conmigo porque decían que yo no tenía remedio y que ya era loco de chiquito. Me mandaban a psicopedagoga, me medicaban para ver si yo me podía encontrar. Eso nunca llegaba a surtir efecto en mí. Y repetía, me atrasaba en la vida de esa manera.
Moi et mon frère et ma sœur, on a tous choisi nos parcours dans l'éducation. Quand j'étais jeune, je faisais de unschooling. Ça veut dire on n'a même pas fait l'éducation à la maison, on n'est pas allé à l'école.
Chaque année, de nombreuses familles font le choix de s'éloigner du système éducatif traditionnel pour suivre une autre voie, celle de l'éducation autodirigée. Autodirigée, ça signifie qu'on laisse les enfants être en charge de leurs propres décisions, et ce dès leur plus jeune âge. Il existe des écoles partout dans le monde où l'on pratique l'apprentissage autodirigé, où les cours ne sont jamais obligatoires, où l'on apprend que l'on a envie d'apprendre, chacun à son rythme, sans suivre de programme défini. Bon, je vous vois déjà froncer les sourcils et vous dire, c'est bien beau d'être libre, mais ces enfants, est-ce qu'ils ne risquent pas de passer tout leur temps à jouer? Est-ce qu'ils n'auront pas des lacunes? Est-ce qu'ils pourront aller à l'université ou avoir un bon travail? Aujourd'hui, nous partons à la rencontre de 4 personnes qui ont grandi dans 4 de ces écoles. Notre histoire débute au Canada où est née Frances.
Un jour, on a regardé dans le dictionnaire la définition du mot école. On a lu école, un endroit qui prépare les enfants pour la vie d'adulte. Mais moi, j'aime pas trop ça. Moi, je préfère penser qu'une école, ça doit simplement créer l'espace où les enfants peuvent se préparer eux-mêmes pour leur vie d'adulte, où on a le temps d'explorer, de questionner, de décider pour nous-mêmes quel genre d'adulte on a envie de devenir, quel genre de vie on a envie de vivre.
Could you hear the music?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, excellent. All right, okay. So I definitely think that. Well, I've seen bits more, but I'm sure people are already sort of thinking, yeah, we want to see more of this now already. Yeah, I really love the idea of having the 4 different stories. I think that was a really lovely part. So, Hill, I'm just going to come to you for a bit now. You are an ex-pupil of Summerhill School. I know you quite well. Out of probably all of the four stories. So do you want to, just sort of, so basically you had your time here, as you said at the beginning of that thing, that you found sort of the state school compulsory lessons, the compulsory lessons side of things difficult. I mean, do you want to just sort of maybe just tell a bit more of your story? I don't know quite how to do this, because I'm not too sure if I want to give too much of your story away. But at the same time, it's lovely to have you, and I know you've got a lovely story. So, so I'm wondering if you could just sort of explain a bit about sort of how it came about that you came to Summerhill and bits and pieces like that.
Sure. Because I don't think I'll diminish the film. The film's worth watching, definitely, even after I'm done here. So,
That's true.
So, well, it's a little hard to say. So, like up until the age of 9, I was at a regular state school in the Netherlands, and I think we were in classes of maybe 35 people, 35 kids in a single classroom, and that meant that you were either, if you were one of the lucky few, sort of fascinated by the subjects and kind of could keep up, then you're in a good place. But it was either boring for you, or it was too fast, and so you kind of get left behind. And I think a lot of people struggled. At the time, it wasn't too bad yet, except for the bullying that I think had really affected me then. But then at the age of 9, I moved to a private school in Scotland, of all places, a Dutch school in Scotland. And I think that's really when I think my time with education kind of took a turn for the worse. It was a private school. A lot of the kids had been in private school their entire life. I came in from a state school. I had to play catch up, and even then, it meant many evenings trying to learn and read and catching up on things that didn't interest me at all. there's a lot of pushing of subjects that just weren't interesting to me, especially at the time, and it's still kind of true now. Like I don't really enjoy fiction as much as I do, sort of scientific studies and books about more, non-fiction subjects. And that was the only thing we were allowed to read at school. Like that was the only thing you could do a book report on. So I drudged through all of these tasks, and that's just one subject, right? There was quite a few like it. And like I said, English was not my favorite subject. I struggled with it. I'd only just started to learn it. The dictating of 15 words every week really had me struggling, and almost made me feel ill every Thursday. I remember this really vividly. So when my parents came to me and said, "Hey, we heard about the school called Summerhill, and you do not have to do any homework, and you can kind of dictate your own pace," well, that sounded like a dream. So that's how I came to Summerhill. Yeah.
It's quite sort of the pursuing of the dream happened before you had the opportunity to pursue your dream. So that to a certain extent, the pursuing of your dream, the democratic education, it gives you that lovely, that gives you that lovely flexibility sort of thing. But you pursued your dream to get to the pursuing of your dream, if that makes sense.
I think so. I think at first it was more of an escape, and then once I was at Summerhill, I could really start to think about what I wanted to do with my future, because that thought hadn't entered my head at all when I first came to Summerhill. Like at state school and in the private school, all that was occupying my mind was what I had to do for the next week and the next exam coming up and the next, never mind why I did them. That was left out. That was never important. So maybe to get to like the next school, right? And then eventually college, but why you were doing it, what subject you wanted to pursue, that was never mentioned.
And then so you came from the things and where most people here will already know about Summerhill already, and the rough kind of structure of the way Summerhill works, sort of thing. So just tell us a bit about your journey from there and what that happened whilst you were at Summerhill. In a bit of brief, obviously we can't do the whole story. Because obviously there's some in the film as well. I don't want to give away, but just sort of give us a bit of an overview of that sort of thing.
Sure. I mean, the first thing I did is drop all the lessons that I could and started building tree huts and went to the woodwork and, went to the art room and kind of did everything that I actually wanted to do and left out everything else. And I think it didn't take me all that long to kind of start thinking a little bit more about, well, I should pick up some subjects, maybe some English here and there. The way that the signups worked at the beginning of term were always pretty approachable and easy. And, with the promise of, look, we're trying to get you to learn a couple things that you want to learn. So it was a different way I was approached altogether, which is great. So I think maybe in my third term, maybe fourth term, so maybe after about a year of not doing anything, academic, I started to pick up those subjects. And then I think really it took until, because I had plenty of time to get bored and to kind of explore subjects around me. And I'd gotten, I think, a laptop around the age of 12. And I tinkered with that thing until there was no more tinkering to be done. And that's I think where my passion really came from. So like computers was something I probably spent too much time doing at the time. And that just drove me to the next step. And I remember asking myself the question, I think around 13, 14 years old, if I want to pursue this as a career, what do I need to do to get there? And I think that there was a lot of help at Summerhill to kind of say, well, you should have a think about what you want to do in the future. And if you do want to do something, let's take a look at college courses and things that you could pursue to kind of get you where you want to go. And that's how I got to where I am. Yeah. Amazing.
And that's what I really liked about your story. It's that you started hating school, and then you found a passion that was a passion, the typical passion that the parents would say, oh, no. Why did it have to be computer games?
Yeah.
And then playing computer games, you decided to study computer games. And studying computer games, you finally ended up liking school.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it with a PhD, so it's a spoiler, but it doesn't really matter. In the end, you ended up liking schooling.
Yeah,
and traditional women.
That was something I wasn't planning at Summerhill yet, though, I'll confess. The PhD, that was sort of, I think I left Summerhill not really being sure where I was on a level. I'll be honest, I came away from Summerhill not really sure if I was capable of making it to higher education with all these kids around me, that I had this perception that they were going to be, a few steps ahead. But what I didn't really account for is that, especially at college, and I did a BTEC first, majority of the people are there for EMA, which was a sort of financial handout for attending school, right? But they weren't there to study the subject. I was there for a whole different reason to the majority of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that has come back up in quite a few sort of sessions over the Summerhill Festival. Quite a few different sessions I've been to. That whole thing to do with the maturity level. The time that the children have, the time that you have to develop, and because you have the space to fulfill your childhood, then you're ready to take those next steps and move on with that journey of development, rather than in a lot of times due to the restrictions that happen. There's a regression. You have to. A lot of people leave, having to then fill in gaps from their past, sort of thing.
And time to get bored. Yeah. When I ask
time to get bored. Time
Exactly.
to get bored. Yeah.
I mean, no better time to explore and find out what it is that you actually like doing when there's nothing to do around you. I think, honestly, yeah.
Talking about that, I don't know if you want to see more bits of the film, but I selected an interview of Peter Gray. And he's talking about free time, and I thought it was interesting. And now that
absolutely. Well, I do remember that being. I was going to mention that in a bit, but I do remember that being quite. Peter Gray's input into this was really amazing. He's put some lovely bits in. So why don't we do that? Why don't we watch a bit of that? Oh yeah, we got yes please coming up, and Peter. Yeah, yes please. Yeah, exactly. So let's watch some other bits. Whatever you have for us, really, Florie. I think we're ready for more.
No. Can you see? No, you're saying no. Wait.
It's okay. Don't worry. And if anybody has any questions whilst we're going along, you're very welcome to put questions into the chat and just join in the conversation at any point.
Should I go?
Yeah.
Can you see what I see?
Yeah, I think we're good. We can see Peter Gray, that's for sure.
Okay, let's go.
I've written a lot about how children's free time opportunities to play has been decreasing over the decades. Ever since about 1955, we've been gradually taking children's freedom away, such that there's huge difference between when I was a child in the 1950s and children today, and how much free time they have, how much they can go out and play just on their own. Children, it's really not an exaggeration to say that children today in the United States, and this is becoming more true in Europe, I don't think it's quite so true in most of Europe as in the United States, where children are more or less being directed and supervised by adults all the time. In fact, it's reached the point where if you allow your child to go out in the park and play, even if it's a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old child, somebody might call the police, call the Child Protective Services, because the belief is this child is in danger. In reality, there's no more danger out there than there ever was, but people believe there was. Over the same period of time that we've seen this huge decline in children's freedom, we've seen a huge increase in anxiety and depression, in childhood suicide. To me, it's a no-brainer that there's a cause-effect relationship between these two. And in my articles and in my book, I describe all the reasons for thinking there's a cause-effect relationship. You take free play away from children, and that's depressing. You put children into an environment where they're always being evaluated and judged by adults, that's anxiety-provoking.
I definitely found that whole thing. All of his input was fantastic. It was really amazing. And was that filmed in France? Where was that filmed?
That was in Paris. He came to Paris.
Was it in Paris?
For a conference, and then I took it.
And you just grabbed hold of him and
exactly. Please come with me.
Amazing. Yeah, really amazing. Cool. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Does anyone has anyone got anything to add or to ask about?
Of course, I have researched more stories about other people. Yes, I've talked to a lot of people. Before I selected the 4, I had the chance to talk to many people. There is a book. I read the book. I don't know who did the book, but there is a book about the former alumni of Summerhill, where you can get
called
a
After
lot of
Summerhill.
stories. A lot of stories. It's a
Yeah,
good.
there's some lovely ones in that actually. There's some, I guess, because of the history, it goes back really far. Yeah.
So yeah, of course, I wanted to include more people in the film, but in an hour and 20 minutes, I couldn't include everybody.
But I was just sorry. Carry on.
So mainly, I think for me, the main line or the thing that everybody had in common was the way they were living their life today and what they had learned from the school. Because, you know, when you meet people coming from democratic school, you can feel something at first, just an impression of being free and well-rounded and happy, and that's what I personally felt when I met them. But to me, the thing that all of them had in common was the fact that they knew exactly what they wanted to do at every moment. And the fact that they knew that if something wasn't making them happy at some point, they would take the decision to just change the way they live. And they knew it sounds maybe stupid or something that everybody can do, but in the end, we are not all able to know, hey, am I happy in my job? Do I want to change my career? And these people, because they had done it for all their life, they knew exactly, hey, right now I want to eat this, I want to play at that place, I want to be with this person. And I know how to enjoy my life because I know that I take my own decisions at every moment. And if my boss tells me to do something that doesn't match with my values, I'm not going to do it just because I know it's my job and I have to do it. I'm going to question it and I'm going to ask myself, do I want to be doing this at every moment? So for me, that was the main common point.
Do you plan on doing more films or writing about the other stories that you researched? Podcast, blog, or short films? Ideas for you. Here we go, Florie. Nice one, Daniel. Let's see.
So there is a bonus of the film because in the end I had the opportunity to film 160 minutes of film. No, way more.
Way more.
Yeah, it was 200 hours. 200 hours.
Yeah,
it was a lot. Just to watch it, it was 200 hours behind my computer, and then I had to select what I was going to keep, what I was going to organize, what was going to match, how to make a dialogue between the 4 stories. So with what I couldn't include in the 1 hour 20, I decided to make another film, a bonus, with all the people who didn't have a chance to appear and all the speakers like Peter Gray and all the people I couldn't, because we met the families of every character of the film. We met the directors of the schools, the funders, the people who had an impact in their life at some point, Peter Gray as well. So yeah, I had a lot of material and I decided to make another film that will be released at the same time as the other. I would love to be making other film for sure. Then it's just a question of time and a question of, to make this film, I had to do a crowdfunding to finance the travel, finance the equipment, because it takes a lot of time to read books, to, to make your mind about what you want to convey, what you want to transmit. It's a lot of work in the end, and it's a lot of time. So I would love to dedicate myself to making documentaries, but it's not possible just because I wouldn't have the money to just do that all the time.
Yeah, of course. Well, exactly. I mean, I think many people who have sort of in the realm of making films and doing this sort of thing, that especially when it's independent, it always takes a lot longer. It's always a lot more than you think. I mean, so because when you came to Summerhill, I'm just trying to think now, you were at Summerhill for 3 days.
It was
2
1
days?
week, 2 days in Summerhill, I think.
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah. But then you also spent extra time with Hill anyway, didn't you?
We had to go to the graduation, spend time with his family, and yes.
Yeah. And so, but what about with the other families? So you traveled to each of their locations. So how long did you spend? Like in total, you say 6 years. Are we talking 4 years of filming and 2 years of editing, or are we talking 1 year of filming and 5 years of editing? Just sort of.
Well, with the 200 hours that I had to watch and organize, I think it was 2 years of editing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I would say 1 year of reading books, watching films, getting knowledge, visiting schools, talking to the ex-students, talking to the founders, because I talked with people in Peru, in every country. I wanted to see how was the school, what was the principles. I really wanted to pick and select every school in function of the philosophy of the school and the way, because for me, for instance, that they would have a lot of nature, a place where they could grow vegetables, a place where they could do woodwork, a place where children could climb the trees. So I really wanted to have nice places connected to nature and with different, for instance, in Argentina, they have a class of meditation. Every day the children arrive, they sit in a circle, and during 10 minutes, everybody stays in silence and meditate. So you see 4-year-old children meditating. And for me, it was important to have school who would have different, they have yoga classes, they have
different dynamics of the way they structure their days and their focus.
Exactly. And then Summerhill is a boarding school, but Ojo de Agua is a day school. So you really feel the difference also in the way they make the democracy function. The general meeting is really different from a country to another. In Argentina, for instance, they don't vote because they decided that voting wasn't really necessarily democratic. Also because of the culture and the local situation that they have in politics and the corruption and so on, they don't feel so represented by the government. So for them, democracy is not the best solution. So they decided to say that they were a democratic school, but in the end, they have their own time of functioning, their own time of democracy. For them, they sit in a circle, and the general meeting is about letting everybody express what they feel, how they want to change the rules of the school, and making sure that everybody has a turn, a moment to express their opinion, suggest a way to improve the school, and then they will make a trial out of the conversation. Like, for instance, I don't know, someone would say, I want to meditate 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes. And if they're not sure about the proposition, they will make a trial for 1 week, 2 weeks, and they will see if it works. If it doesn't work, they will change it, but there is no majority and no voting and saying the majority is going to impose the decision on the rest of the school. So all of this to say that every school is really different, and it took me a lot of time to select 4 schools that would be really personal, really different.
Yeah. Well, the dynamics is very, very important. It's very, very important. Amazing. Yeah. Now, something else that I was sort of thinking about just now as well is that it's actually quite timely, coming out of the pandemic as well. I think that quite a lot of people are sort of feeling that there's lots of conversations about education going on around the world. There's lots of reflection happening about education. There's lots of pressure being put in places. There's you've got the UNESCO, their sort of report from the Futures of Education initiative that's going to be published quite soon. There's lots of people from the democratic communities have got things with that there's a lot kind of going on around education. And it's interesting. There's something I wanted to reflect on, coming back to you, Helen, in just a second as well. But you can obviously put opinion onto this as well. But it seems like it's a time now actually where a film coming out like this is going to be quite important. It's going to be quite a prominent message potentially.
I hope so. Hopefully.
Yeah.
No,
yeah. Daniel, you've come and joined us in person. We've got well, I won't say three-dimensional, but nearly three-dimensional. About as much three-dimensional as we can get in a two-dimensional situation, anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Hello. I thought it was about time that I I asked the questions in like here directly. So
in person, yeah.
Yeah. So I have two questions. Like after doing all this research, all this work, and really getting into all these stories, do you have like any concerns about like something that may not work with self-directed education or democratic schools? And like linked to that, why do you think that this has not really taken over the schooling system of the world? Because if we have compelling stories that they're saying like look at this, why this hasn't happened?
That's a really good question, and I had the exact same question. And I asked the same question to every director of every school I went to. So I think the problem is the culture, and that's really easy because in Argentina, for instance, the government is funding the democratic school because they have good results. So La Cecilia receives every year a funding from the government to make the school work. And they have really good results because every 2 years the government says there is an exam for the whole country and they can't escape, they have to participate. There is no exam in the school, but there is this exam every 2 years. And they have really good results. And so I was asking, how come we don't have democratic schools all over the world and everywhere in Argentina? And he said, the problem is people see us as crazy, anarchist, hippie people. And what we have to change is the culture, and it takes a lot of time to change a culture because people think we have to go to school and then you have to get seated in a desk and repeat things over and over to children. And this is so incrusted so inside of us that we need to make conferences, we need to talk to people, we need to meet people like Hildebrand and listen to their stories. And in the end, what we need to change is the culture. And to change a culture, you have to make culture. So making a documentary film is an example, writing a book is an example, and making a festival just like that one is another example. But yes, mainly the blocking point would be the people and the way they would think.
Is there something that we're doing as democratic schools to be like perceived as hippies and all that stuff? I mean, should we be doing something different? I mean, this is interesting because you said you were coming from marketing. So if you compare what is done in a formal like company against what we do in democratic schools, like what is your perception?
I think the communication is, the message and the way you say, for instance, if you say, oh, freedom, they're going to spend time pursuing their dreams and, the typical hippie message. That's why I really wanted to focus the documentary on, can they find a job? Can they get into university? Because this is the question that people in the culture that really thinks that getting a job is the most important thing that you can have in your life. That's the question of the society. So if you want to address a message to that, to the people who live with this conception of the world, you need to speak their own language. So I think many times when you see a school like the Sudbury Valley or Summerhill, the first thing you hear is, oh yeah, these people, they're so happy, they're playing all the time, they're following their dreams, and that's the type. The documentary is called "Pursuing My Dreams," so that's my own mistake. But Yes, I think that's the thing, adapting the way we talk about them and not conveying so much the idea that if you go to that school, you will find your passion, and you will straight away reach that passion, and that it's not always so easy. So for instance, I've seen many films about self-directed education, and when you see the film, you feel that's too good to be true. Not everybody is going to have the perfect job and the perfect family and the perfect everything. So I selected 4 people who didn't necessarily represent the perfection in the sense of what society would call a successful life. So for me, it's important to show stories and show that there is a really good book of the Sudbury Valley as well about the alumni, where they tell a story of people who live in the woods and live without electricity, and who decided to have 20 children, or this type of story that, it doesn't, it's not you don't display the good results of the school only. You also say, okay, the most important thing is to live the life that you want to live. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just going to come to Hill on that same question to a certain extent, Hill, because obviously you came from the state system. You went through Summerhill. You went through the education. You got a doctorate. You got a job. I mean, and that sort of thing. You must get people talking to you about that same sort of question. Or do you have those sort of conversations? What's your thoughts on it generally?
It's a difficult one, because from my perspective, I think I'm worried sometimes that people who talk to me come away with the misconception that they should all send their kids to a democratic school because they're gonna achieve great things and go through a higher education, when really that's not what I set out to pursue. I set out to go down the path that I kind of laid for myself, and the fact that it got me to where it did is just my own drive, right? It's like I don't think people who a Summerhillian may have picked a totally different path, and they will have been just as successful, and that's, I think, what should be remembered, is that it's not about, the definition of success shouldn't be dictated by the society that you're in, but rather by yourself. And I think that's where Summerhill is so radical, and I think a little intimidating, especially to prospective parents, right? This idea that your kid, you can kind of go down the cookie cutter kind of path and down that factory kind of line, and know that at the end of it, if they don't make it to uni, then it's not a problem with the school, because the parents and everybody that you know to be successful has gone down the same path, but rather it's a problem with the child, which I think is a huge misconception. And I think Summerhill kind of does this thing where it allows you to go down the path that you want to go, and if it just so happens to be higher education, then I believe most Summerhillians would be very capable of going down that path. So I think that's where it's always a little difficult, because I can see myself, I think of myself as a true Summerhillian, in that I followed what I want to do, but I also feel myself kind of fitting into that societal definition of success, which I almost think discredits Summerhill. I feel like that's yes, sure, but that's not the bit that anybody should really focus on when they hear about what it is that I did with what I want to do with my life. It's it's a bit of a so in that sense, I think it comes through in the documentary really well, is that, especially as a prospective parent, don't look at my story as a sort of guiding pole of like, that's really nice, I wish the same for my kid. Because they may hate what I've done. They may hate the path that I was on. They may really dislike everything that I took a liking to. And they may choose something totally different to myself and be happier than I am, And that's great. That's really what I want. So that's the
Yeah.
message that should come forward. And I think the documentary does that really well.
Yeah, that's actually the conclusion of the film. I decided to pick this bit and put it in the end so that it would be really clear that it's not perfect for everybody. And what's really important is that every children would find a place where they feel comfortable and where they keep this, this curiosity and willing to learn.
But it goes back to to me, the very interesting point of what Daniel was asking about of, again, society, culture, getting used, how do we change the fact that, because we all know, I mean, if we were, a lot of us know this in these sort of environments, and to a certain extent, you have to, it's a weird way, you don't have to have trust, you have to let go as a parent to a certain extent. You have to just sort of go, it's okay, it doesn't matter, whatever doesn't matter, it's all right, there isn't but that whole idea is something that people are nervous about, or that's, it can make it, and that's interesting, yeah.
I think to Florie's point, I think democratic schools will start to do a lot better when a sort of society and culture lets go of its current definition of success, which usually is either making a lot of money or going down an academic route. I think that, and that is quite a shift. It'll take some time, but I think there's already a lot of movements that are heading in that direction. I'd love to see more of that.
Yeah.
And even when you were at Summerhill, you were impacted by, I remember you saying you were really nervous about going out of Summerhill because you didn't know if your grades were going to match the expectations in the other schools. So even being inside Summerhill, you would receive this information from outside saying, oof, this is going to be hard for you.
Yeah, I think you hear like success stories and you hear of people who are very, very smart. And I think it's hard when you've not had the opportunity to measure yourself up against sort of the general group, like where you would land. And that was incredibly intimidating to me. So I came to college on the first day with like having done as much reading as I could beforehand and come with all the materials that I had to try and give it a real shot, and a lot of talks with people who'd gone through education and kind of gotten their input on what it was going to be like. And I was terrified. And I think that took about a week or two before I realized that actually it was nowhere near as far behind as I thought I was, and actually it was going to be okay. And then that kind of led me down a path of wanting more as I went on, and eventually that carried over into eventually a degree. And then during my degree, the only reason I got an offer for a PhD is because I was pushing my subject to sort of a next limit. They asked me to write a theoretical kind of like end of degree thesis sort of thing that talked about how I would go about implementing this thing called quality of service, this in an alternative internet protocol. And I had the opportunity to kind of just do it practically. That was a lot more fun, in my opinion. The theory's fine, but the practical side, to see it work, is the real, kicker, the real satisfying part. And I feel like that's to me, that's something that I think Summerhill drove me to do. It's that kind of, like I wasn't there just to get the piece of paper. I was there because I really liked the subject. Yeah.
Amazing. Stijan, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Yes. Hi.
Yeah.
Henry.
Hi.
Hi, Florie and Hill and all yours. Thank you already, and also for making all the work for the film. And I'm really curious to see all the film. And I just a practical question about. I saw there were before planned screenings in France and in the French part of Belgium, and I wonder if that's still possible also to organize screening.
There are a few
in English, preferably, because it's for the Flemish part of Belgium. So
yes, so it's not official, but there are some screenings that can be organized. So I ask people to make sure there is 50 people gathering so that there is enough people to, because the festivals don't allow me to do it. So I don't want to take a risk for 2 or 3 people, and it wouldn't be just for the rest of people who can't see it. So I make sure there is many people who can access to the film at once. And then, yes, I send the film and there is a projection, a screening.
And how do I just...
So you can, write me a message if you want to. You can go on the website and write me a message directly from the website.
Okay. And there is already with English translation, is that?
Yes, it's in English, French, and Spanish.
Okay.
Subtitles.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, if you want to show the film at our festival now, we won't tell anyone, you know. Don't just, whatever you do, don't, there's nothing happening here.
No, online is yeah.
Oh God! Oh, we've got to be patient and wait. Oh, that's not good. Oh no.
No, but next year we can see it all together.
Next year, all right, okay. Well,
during the summer festival, yeah.
Yeah, all right then. All right, we'll let you off. Only just.
Thank you.
Okay.
I see it's already 8 p.m. Do you want to see? Because I don't know if you have many time, but do you want to see your last bit?
Yeah. Of course we'll want to see the last bit of the film. I mean, come on. What's a silly question, isn't it? Of course we want to see the last.
That's the one about Summerhill, so it would be a shame not to show it.
I know. We definitely want to see it.
Okay. Okay.
I hated school. Lessons and sitting in a desk for so many hours a day was something that drove me crazy as a kid. I had so much energy. I wanted to express myself in so many ways.
She thought that we were parents who were doing not the right thing for their children.
After my visit to Summerhill, my mind was made up, and I set my mind I was going to Summerhill School from there on out.
Calagino said, your children are not your children. They belong to themselves. And from young on, we said to our children, you belong to yourself, and we'll help you make that happen.
Me and my sister loved it so much that we immediately said yes.
Why do we hold people with high academic achievements up on a pedestal and look down on the man who is sweeping the streets? You know, it's illogical, and it shouldn't be that way.
A school where lessons were optional, where homework was not compulsory, and one where the kids would make the rules. And that, to me, sounded like heaven.
We had to see something about Summerhill being here.
Wow, we are in the Summerhill Festival of Childhood. I mean, come on. Amazing, amazing. I was just going to quickly, just a little thing, just quickly for Hill mentioning your sister there. You know, almost a little bit the whole thing of pursuing her dreams, you know, well, I hope she won't mind me talking about her a little bit, of leaving Summerhill, following a career in modelling, and then changing direction to being a mechanic. You know, I quite like that. You know, that's sort of, I've got quite a few different stories of things like that, and I sort of, again, it's, you know, following your dreams. Where are you today? What's going on? And off you go. You know, it's really sweet.
And she test drives Teslas today, so.
Oh,
that's
really?
what she does now. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, she's kept a hold of that passion for cars.
Amazing, amazing. Cool. Right, Florie, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming and joining our festival. Thank you for sharing the videos and all of those bits and pieces and spending time with us. Thank you, Hill, for coming as well. It's always lovely to see you, Hill. And we'll see you all soon. And so the website, just to finish off, the website is where to go. Is that right, Florie?
The website is where to go. Yes.
The website is where to go.
Yes, you can write me a message. You can subscribe to the newsletter and know when the film will be released. The website is the place. Yes. There is a Facebook page as well, but yeah, the website is easier.
Okay, so pursuing my dreams.
À la poursuite de mes rêves. Everything is in French. So I'm not sure it will work if you put in Google "pursuing my dreams."
Well, you know, we can figure something out. I'm sure that will all that anyway. So
stuck the link in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant, lovely. Yeah, thanks. So that's the link to the website in the chat just there. Great. Okay. Well, thank you all very much again, and we'll end the session now. So thank you all for the participants for all coming, and we'll see you all again soon.
So thank you for inviting us. It was a pleasure to
Thanks,
join.
everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
I'll just stop the